Hello, fellow citizens! I am your host, Jess, and this is your reminder that the weight of the entire world is not on your shoulders, and you can make a difference. This podcast is about what it means to be a citizen and neighbor where you live. For me, that's Philadelphia. This is another one of our casual episodes, and today I am joined by somebody who's okay, if we're like in the same room together, sometimes she's just number two, which isn't to mean she's like second to the best because I think she's pretty great. Jess Arena is here. Hi, Jess.
Hey. I think it used to be that when I was down in your territory, I was just number two and you were just number one, and you were in my territory, you were just number two, and I was just number one.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. It's all about the location.
Who you know?
Speaking of that, do you know how we met?
I think you were right when we were talking about this earlier, and you said that we met in Kelly's Filmmaking 101 class at Ramapo College. I believe that is also where we met.
What did you think, like, before we knew each other in that class? What did you think of that class? Were you like, oh my God, I don't know anything about filmmaking, I'm nervous? Or you were like, heck yeah, I'm going to be a filmmaker?
I mean, I was definitely excited to take digital filmmaking. It was maybe not quite what I originally imagined, but I also, maybe I'm not sure what I imagined it to be or what expectations I had. I just knew that I've always loved film and I wanted to learn in what ways I could make film. And I think the only expectation I had going into it was I used to make like stupid videos with my friend Milford, and he had this camcorder that had a little like mini DVD in it. I think it was like, I forget what it was called. And we used those. So I was like, is it going to be like that? And then we had the cage that we could do rentals from. And I was like, this is so cool. So I was just really excited to like be in the class in general, I think, and get to make something. And then I met you there, and we paired up with this other girl, Hannah, and we all had to make like shorts and stuff. So that was really fun. And I remember us like driving around Kinnelon too, like, do you remember when we were circling that police station to try to get, like, fake police noises into the...
Jess Arena wrote the wildest short film, and, like, on that shoot, I realized, like, your faith and your religion, and I'm like, this script is hella dark. Like, I didn't know that she would write this. I mean, it wasn't, like, a slasher film or anything, but, like, yeah, we had to get permission to use a gun, like a prop gun. You like warned the police station, right?
I don't think we warned the police, or maybe we did. Maybe we were like, we should probably tell them that like nobody's actually gonna get shot.
Or maybe I don't know, it was something. But yeah, I guess that's why we went, was like to get the police noises. I just remember like we had gone after some classes that day, and I had picked up lunch from the cafeteria.
Oh, yeah.
And I decided to get a tuna sub.
Yeah.
And I'm waiting in the lobby while Jess is doing her like director thing, and this officer woman just like glared at me, and she goes, "Is that tuna?" And I was like, "Oh my God, step off. I'm hungry."
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that tuna sandwich until now. That was so great.
We had some really great times at Ramapo. Wait, so what were our cameras? What did we have SD cards?
Oh my gosh. I don't think they were SD cards. They might have been like older than that.
I don't remember how we imported. They weren't like film. They were digital.
Yeah. Yeah, they were definitely digital because they also had like VHS converter tapes in the filmmaking class, so that you could like, if you had old film, you could pop it in and digitize it, which was really cool. But we didn't really use that a whole lot.
No, we didn't use that. I remember we had this kid Teddy in our class, and like when we met, we were transfers at Ramapo, so we were like juniors, I think, when we met. Yeah. And I think Teddy was like a freshman or a sophomore.
Maybe a sophomore, but I remember him being like super talented.
Yeah. And Kelly had to tell him to like bring it down a notch. She was like, this is introduction to filmmaking, so stop it.
What are you doing here? Go up a level.
I couldn't understand it, which I was like, that's okay, because then it like makes me kind of competitive, but I didn't know what I was doing. So my favorite project we did, though, what was it called? The one we did with Teresa Green and Mike Flynn. If
Oh
you're
my gosh.
listening to this.
Subject to Change. I found it on YouTube
A little while ago.
It was like everything I didn't know that I should have been making, because like we made the best of our situation, and like looking back on it, I was very short-tempered in college. Like for a long period of my life, I had such a short temper. I didn't want to deal with anybody's like, I don't know, like whatever. I also like didn't know a lot of
it's like fair to a certain extent, though, you know, like
yeah. You were there.
especially some people in the class. It was just like, all right, like let's move on.
They were some really big personalities. I mean, when you go to a school where a lot of people are focusing on communication arts and you're in a film class, you're going to get in a class with people who know everything and want to tell you that they know everything about film. And I'm just going to be honest with you all. Like, I enjoy writing, and that's all I know. And I'm here to learn. Like, we're in college. We're not masters of anything.
That's true. Yeah.
Looking back, I enjoy Subject to Change. I think it's pretty fun. It
was pretty great. It was like so stupid, but in like a lot of really great ways.
Is that on my YouTube?
I think so. I think it's on your older YouTube, not your more current one for this, Jess. But if you look up...
The one with Ruby.
Yes. If you look up Subject to Change 2010, it should pop up.
Yeah, listeners, look it up on YouTube. It's a riot, and I just feel like it's the most honest and blunt piece about the process of making that piece. And at that time, I had not read Catcher in the Rye.
For context, it's a mockumentary. I think we were supposed to have been making a serious film at that point in time in Kelly's class, but we absolutely chose not to and collectively agreed on it.
I think we got like a B+ though, which I'm really happy with.
Terrible.
We didn't know, and I'm really proud of some of the things that we did. And like, I think at some point, like Mike knew that we just weren't a good fit for each other.
Yeah.
And I think we all did our best under the conditions. The thing is, like, if I was in that group today, I would be so much more patient. I would be way more willing to embrace everybody's ideas, despite, like, how they were presented. Because he just, like, came in every day like he was the director of the best thing that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah.
And I was like, but nobody's seen it.
I mean, some people are just very confident, you know, and
yeah.
And
I just didn't realize that at the time. I didn't know a lot.
Definitely interesting to sort of leave a space in your life and like think about it later, revisit that later with the knowledge and understanding that you have now, because you've just grown as a person in a lot of different ways that you weren't ready for back then. So, I mean, you know, that's why different phrases exist, like hindsight is 20/20, because you just are in a learning process.
I don't know.
I always say to Tom, like, you don't know what movie you're in. And so, like, people who are in a horror film, they don't know that they're in a horror film. So, of course, they're going to make bad choices. And I'm always wondering in my daily life, what kind of film am I in today?
I could be in a horror film.
I could be in a horror film. Oh my gosh. Maybe I'm, like, on that same personality level as Mike today. I'm just ridiculous, and I don't know how many people want to put up with me. I'm a diva on set. I know it. But it was always a learning process.
Set life is stressful. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot to think about. So, I mean, I've worked on set with you for a few years now at like different
Yeah.
at different stages in your life, and it's been really cool to see you kind of grow and learn and sort of understand what type of director you can be for other people too. So like even what you're talking about now, just sort of understanding your demeanor on set and how you handle that situation and learning for the next time is really important, because if you're a director who's not willing to learn any of that or not willing to take an honest look at yourself and be like, how am I leading other people? How am I directing? Am I directing well? Am I listening to others' opinions or others' struggles? And am I able to come up with ways to sort of creatively problem solve for them and help them and show them that I care about them? There's a lot to being a director. And people don't always realize that. So,
Especially in indie film.
Yeah.
Because you don't always have everybody for every role that you could possibly get on a crew.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we're just stretched really thin. And
A lot of hats.
if it weren't that way, things would be so different. But we make the most of it. I think that's a really great segue to ask you how you're spending your time during this pandemic in 2020.
So, well, last year I left my full-time job to open a small production company, and in our first year opening, there was a pandemic, so there's that. But I'm still owning and operating it. It's called JA Cinema, and I specialize in film entertainment, commercial advertising, and branded content. So that entails, of course, a lot of just smaller companies. I just released a promotional video for a real estate business partnership for Berkshire Hathaway, and I did a video for one of my friends has a holistic nutrition coach business, so I did a video for that. Just fun creative films for different types of businesses to help pay the bills. But then on the side, doing my own sort of film entertainment pieces. Last year I was working on a documentary about musicians in the North Jersey area. And so, yeah, sorry, I took a bunch of notes.
I love it.
So I wrote also, while I'm currently the lead filmmaker, developing concepts, doing the cinematography and the editing, my career track is mostly to be director, actor. That's my focus.
I'm so glad that we got to start that documentary last year. I'm really, really happy that I got to be a part of that because, like you said, you've been on a lot of my shoots where I was in the director's shoes. So I'm really proud that I could see you take on that role. And, you were hella professional and, very composed. And the subject matter was just very motivating. I learned a lot, and, it really made me think about my own life choices, and I just can't wait to get back to it and see the finished product.
Yeah, I wanted to continue it, but we were filming a lot at people's personal homes and their personal studio spaces, and with everything happening with COVID, I just didn't want to put that on anyone. So I kind of held off production this year, and I'm hoping to get back into it in the spring, but I'll spend more of the winter just editing. Chris Orangio actually had edited sort of a little teaser for the festival that we had shot, and he also edited Larry. Larry was one of the guys that we interviewed, and right now it's at 20 minutes, sort of as a getting to know Larry, which I think would be cool to use as its own sort of promo spotlight on YouTube once we sort of continue with the feature, but it would be cut down in the feature to allow for other people's input as well, and then they might also have their own 20-minute snippet on YouTube as its independent piece as well, just to sort of allow that creative promotional marketing side, I think would be a cool idea.
I mean, I've never been involved in a documentary before that project, and so I think that's got to be the hardest part is cutting it down to time.
Yeah.
Especially when your subjects are real people and you have multiple subjects. So good luck.
Thanks. Yeah, I right now I'm just trying to finish up a bunch of edits before I can do some of my more playful edits like that one because it's obviously a personal piece. I'm looking at my wall right now, though. I've got sticky note after sticky note behind my computer that's just like, work on this project, and there's priorities, and I've got 5 p.m. podcast with Jess. So, like, all my stuff, and then sort of my more fun edits, I have to finish up just a couple music videos that I'd been working on for the last couple of years that I just, sometimes other projects end up taking precedence over passion projects, which is a shame. I want to just be able to work on those full time, but gotta do what you gotta do.
It's a journey. So you mentioned the word play. So how are you playing these days?
So I took this question as just, a really personal one, I guess. I'm just a really active person. I love running, hiking, kayaking. I snowboard as well. Just being outside, anything that gets me outside. Like, I don't even like the cold, but I took up snowboarding because, well, you look really cool when you snowboard, but also I just get to be outside. And so I just enjoy being active. I also enjoy creating in a lot of different forms, whether that is film, like we've talked about, or I do drawings, I craft, or build different things. I've built some bookshelves. I made a brick patio walkway system for my parents. I also work on my car a lot, and thankfully I haven't had to recently, which is good because normally I work on it out of necessity, not just like for kicks. I drive an old 99 Jeep Cherokee Sport, and I've had it since like 2006, so I take care of that as much as I can. And so yeah, I just really enjoy working with my hands, creating something that's meaningful, hopefully, too, especially when it does come to film, and that hopefully reflects, for me, Christ in some way. And then that kind of seeps into my work life, too, and just my demeanor and how I'm being professional with other people and treating other, clients well and doing a good job on whatever it is that I'm working on. So that's sort of my play life, I guess.
I don't think we mentioned it yet. Can you tell our listeners where you're located?
Oh, yeah. Like just the northwest corner of New Jersey, basically. I grew up in Oak Ridge, Jefferson area, and that's Morris County, and I just moved over to Elmwood Park in, I think it's Bergen County. I think I'm in Bergen County now.
So what is your home life like these days? Like, we're in, a bit of a quarantine work from home life, but that also like kind of plays into what your work life is. So, I mean, are you finding time to split that?
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult for me to really stick to a schedule when I am just working from home and trying to run my own business. Everything sort of seeps over. I'm trying to be a little bit more disciplined with that so that I can work well in order to rest well. It is very hard, but I am trying to get a lot of my edits done before Thanksgiving so that I can just enjoy that time with my family and be present with them and not sort of having a lot of projects weighing on me. But yeah, so up until recently, like I said, I was at home living with my parents and my sister too, and just moved over to Elmwood Park. And so now I'm usually home on the weekends. We'll gather for virtual church on Sunday mornings together at my parents' house, and we'll still have family dinners like we always have. That was always very big in our family. My dad is an amazing cook, and my mom will cook sometimes too, but it's very important to us to sit down and have dinner together. So moving here has been a little bit different because I live with 3 other people still, and it's a 4-bedroom house, but everyone kind of is doing their own thing. Sometimes we'll have dinners together though. When I first moved in, there were 2 guys living downstairs, and I made them dinner as like, thank you for like allowing me to live here. And then the girl across the hall that just moved in too, we've been bonding, which has been really great. Her name's Ashley, and we made dinner together last night, which was it's just fun for me because I hate eating alone. So it's just really important to me. And what else did I write? Oh, and with my family too, we're also currently watching the latest season of Fargo, which I think I told you about because my dad was like, oh, Chris Rock's in this episode. We gotta watch it. I was like, Dad, I've never seen Fargo. I can't just jump in. It's season 3 or something. And he's like, no, it's totally fine. Each episode is its own thing. They don't relate to each other. And I was like, you're sure? He's like, yes, this is what he told me. I was like, okay. So I sat down and watched it with my dad and my mom. And then it ends. And I was like, what? Like, this is how the one episode is going to end? There's no way. And he was like, oh, well, it's 3 episodes that relate to each other. I was like, 3? Oh, all right, okay. So, we got together another time and we watched like 2 more. And I was like, this is still going. This is not 3 episodes. And then I talked to Jess and Tom, her husband, and they were like, oh no, it's like an anthology. You're watching a whole season right now that you've committed to.
I like to think your dad did know that. He was just like, oh, now that she doesn't live here, like, I need to rope her in and I need to, like, let it play out.
Oh my gosh.
That's really cute.
I really am enjoying it though. Like, it's a really good series. So that just means now I'm going to have to commit to going back and watching seasons 1 and 2.
Oh, yes.
It's really well done. I'm really enjoying the editing style of it, the directing style of it. I really like it.
We just finished The Haunting of Bly Mansion.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then now we're actually on The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, so you kind of went...
We went back, yeah, because, like, Bly House was, like, the current one, like, the new release. So we're like, okay, like, we'll watch it. And then we're like, oh, that was really, really good. And so now we're back at the other one. But, like, it's funny because the Bly Mansion one is overall, and this isn't, like, a spoiler, but, like, overall, it's, like, a love story.
Yeah.
And Hill House is so scary. Like, I scream every episode. And, like, we're watching the dogs this week, and so they get, like, scared because I'm scared, but it's fun. We were actually watching episode 6 last night. And I don't know if you noticed, but it's only probably like 5 or 6 long shots, like continuous shots. And it was pretty fun. We got like 5 minutes into it and I was like, is this still that same shot?
Wait, is that, you mean Hill House or Bly?
Hill House.
Okay. I only made it to episode like 1 of Hill House. It was a little scary for me.
Is it too scary?
I just stopped last year.
It's not for everyone.
I kind of wanted to go back and watch it, but I just never did because that's not really something I would probably watch by myself.
It does have a couple of the same cast members, and so like to me, like that in itself is one of the drawing factors because they play such different characters. So if you and Snowflake want to watch it one night.
Snowflake?
Wait, what's the dog's name?
We have a dog?
House where you live.
Oh, okay. There's a dog at this house. Yes. His name is Snowball. Yes.
Snowball.
But my parents, we also, at our house, a cat started coming around, and he's all white, and we named him Glacier.
Right.
So I think I'm just like confusing them in my head.
But do you think Glacier could like really comfort you in a scary movie?
He's not very cuddly, right? Like, I want to cuddle with him because he's so fluffy, but he won't let me. But he just started showing up, and we think somebody might have abused him or dumped him or something, and so we just started taking him in, and now, we've been feeding him. I just got him a collar. We got him his, like, vet shots and stuff, so now he's just our cat.
Oh, that is really sweet. That's neighborly. Well, I adore, like, how confused you were about where you live and, like, who has a dog and who has a cat. Oh. Can you tell our listeners where all you lived?
Oh, okay. So other than growing up in Oak Ridge and now moving to Elmwood Park, I've traveled a lot and have also sort of lived in Montana for about 2 years. And a lot of that is either just road tripping or specifically Montana. I was living there to work on a feature film that just released this year, actually, which is really exciting. And I was just back there in October. I took a plane, which, in this day and age was like kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I got to go to the film festival that it was screening at. It has actually already been released before that on Amazon because we were supposed to have the screening for the premiere of it back in April, and then when COVID hit, they pushed it back to October, and then the director just didn't want to wait until October to release it because, you know, he kind of already had the ball rolling with the distribution company, and they were like, all right, let's just release it straight to Amazon Prime and still have it at the festival just later. So I waited until the festival to watch it, and I got to go back out there and see a bunch of my friends that I haven't seen in like 2 years because we completed it, we ended filming May 2018, and so it was just really good to see everyone after 2.5 years, actually, and stay with the family that I had been staying with out there, and just get to see everybody. It was really special. So I have definitely traveled to Montana.
Can you tell our listeners the name of the film?
Oh, yeah, sure. I thought I said it. It's called Useless. It's about a girl coming of age and barrel racing to sort of find her own identity after following in her mother's footsteps.
Sweet. Look for Useless on Amazon, listeners.
I was the art director on that piece, so that means I was head over like wardrobe, hair and makeup, set design, and props. And so it was a lot of gathering props, a lot of making props, and that was really interesting for me too, just being in a different place than I'm used to, where I knew how to readily source things. I had to rely on a lot of other people and their input and them knowing the area more than I did. I got to know it obviously a lot more after being there for quite a while, but when I was first getting there and getting onto set and doing all these things, it was just pulling resources of people to help me pull resources of things that I needed for the film.
So I just want to stay on that for like 1 second. When you were in Montana, was that a culture shock?
Not too much. I don't think I've ever really experienced culture shock. It was different, They kind of... sometimes it feels like you're still living in the 90s in a way. Or like early 2000s. Culture sort of just slowly migrates across the country because New York City is a metropolis that creates a lot of media and its own type of culture, and a lot of culture sort of flows out from there. And LA, like major cities, but where I was staying in Montana, it was called the Flathead Valley, and it's fairly remote. It was about an hour and a half south of Glacier National Park / Canada. So we're like really close to the Canadian border up there. And yeah, in a way, also where I was staying was very specific because there is Kalispell, which is kind of center of townish and a little bit more modern in a very Western way. Because, they've got tons of like boot shops and leather shops, just like a lot of cowboy stuff. And it's so cool. It's really, really cool. We got to go to rodeos. It was really, really fun. And the place where I was staying has like 10 acres, but then, other people have a lot of acres with like cows that they were hosting from France or something. I don't know. So people do like a lot of crazy stuff, and it's just gorgeous, and some of the locations that we got to shoot at were amazing. But anyway, where I was staying was on the outskirts, about a half hour outside of town. So that was something you had to kind of get used to. It's like if you're going into town for groceries, there is a smaller grocery store about 20 minutes down the road, but if you want to go to like the center of town, that's at least a half hour away. So you kind of have to make sure that you have that grocery list, that you don't forget your grocery list, and that you kind of do other errands too. So you kind of plan your day about going into town and all the things that you have to get done. The other interesting thing was that where we were staying, they don't have, so there were, I was renting a cabin on about 10 acres of a family home. And in the family home, there were 2 boys. One was in like middle school, one in high school, and there's no buses that come out there because it's so far away, and just remote. And they use buses for for other parts, but not where we were. So like their parents had to drive them, and school is at least 20 minutes away as well. So that was a little different, but I mean, not too much of a culture shock for me because like I don't have to worry about taking the bus to school.
Right.
And then there's also no garbage trucks. So when you want to throw your trash out, you know, you have like a big pile of it that you put in a truck or something, and then you bring it to what's called a green box site. And it's kind of like, you know, I'm used to at home, we had to go to recycle center sometimes if, you know, we couldn't wait for something to be picked up or whatever. On Saturdays, we'd bring stuff over to recycle center, and then you kind of dish it out where it's supposed to go, like wood over here, aluminum here, blah, blah, blah. You kind of just do the same thing with those green box sites. It's just now also your trash is included in that. And if you have to do recycle as well, they've got that. And then there's also just a ton of dirt roads out there.
Wow, this is fascinating. I like it because I was just talking with Jerry yesterday, and he's been in New Jersey like most of his life. He's been in South Plainfield for a huge chunk of his life, and he still is. And I was saying that like here in Philadelphia, like I live in the city of Philadelphia, and I rent, and we were never asked to like pick a plan for trash pickup. Like we don't pay for a service.
Okay.
And whereas, so I don't know if it's just like a citywide thing, but when he lived in an apartment for like 2 years or so, that was something new for him because he had to choose a trash pickup service.
I didn't even know that was a thing, you know, because I'm used to Jefferson where we just have town pickup. Like they just come by
Yeah.
certain days of the week and pick it up. And they do that here too. So
You should ask the guys who lived there first. Be like, did you choose this trash service? Like, are you paying for this? Or do you know that it's not?
I can ask
Yeah.
them. I just didn't even know that was an option, you know. I thought it was just that's what every town does because that's, I guess,
Right.
maybe your tax dollars or something is what I imagine it would be. I don't really know.
But yeah, like, so like that's just like one of those comforts, I guess, that people don't pay much attention to. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I like interrupted you, but I was just super intrigued by Montana. But I know like you travel a lot, and that's that. Do you think that's been on hold? Because I've seen, I know I'm part of like a national parks Facebook group, and this is like somewhat of like a good time for some people traveling because a lot of places are not crowded in a sort of ironic way. Are you traveling still?
At first, I felt like I wasn't allowed to, you know. The national parks at first were closed. State parks were closed. Then they started to open up sooner than other things did, I think, especially with it getting warmer out and people kind of starting to understand a little bit more about what COVID is and how it interacts with people, and just being outside, distancing from people should be safe enough. There were a couple parks I had gone to that were pretty crowded actually, but they were state local parks. So that was a little stressful in a weird way because you go to a park to kind of de-stress and there's just like, this isn't working. So at first I wasn't really traveling because I just felt this weird, like I wasn't allowed to do anything. I was going for walks every day with my sister, but I was barely getting to go for runs. And then we started to hike more, which was really great. But I guess I should also say I was doing some physical therapy at the beginning of quarantine because I had injured my knee on set right before quarantine hit. So I was kind of walking through that. So then once that felt better and I was going for more runs, I felt more active. Like I said, I went to Montana in October for the premiere, so we did that traveling. And now I'm starting to do more. I'm hopefully visiting my friend Genevieve in Colorado. She lives in Denver, hopefully in December maybe. And then I'm supposed to be going on a road trip to the Grand Canyon with my friend Will in January. So looking to do those things. I've gone on a few road trips. I've been to the Grand Canyon twice now. And I've the first like cross country road trip I did was back in I think 2015, and I went with some people. We went to Glacier National Park and, you know, through the Badlands and Mount Rushmore to Glacier, and then sort of made a line down towards the Grand Canyon. We did Tetons and all that, and then looped back And we did all that in like 2 weeks, and 2 weeks was just not enough time. It's a lot of driving, and you want to spend more time in each place. And then the following year, my sister had off for 2 weeks from her job, and she was like, let's go to California. And I was like, whoa, you don't want to do that. I just did a 2-week road trip. It wasn't enough time. We need more time so that we can enjoy where we are. She's like, no, we're going. I was like, all right. So we got on 80. Oh my gosh, we hit Chicago, saw the Bean, and just kept driving through the night. And, one person would sleep and then one person would drive, and we'd swap. So we just drove through the night through Chicago and got to, I think we left Saturday morning at 6 a.m. and we made it to Lake Tahoe by Monday at 3 p.m. I guess their time, which would be Monday, 3 p.m. No, it was like 12 there. So yeah, we hustled through. We stayed a few hours at a rest stop just outside Salt Lake City and slept in the back of the car, and then got up and kept going once we felt rested enough. That was really cool though, because when we woke up, we didn't know that we were parked near Salt Flats, and it was just the coolest. Like we were driving by, I was like, what are we looking at right now? Is this water? What is this? So we got out, and sure enough, it was Salt Flats, and we were just running across the Salt Flats because it was so cool.
Wow. So you usually travel by car, like anytime you're
traveling? Sometimes you can't, because I've been also to Ireland a few times for like mission trips. Definitely had to fly. I've been to Italy. I was backpacking through Italy for about a month back in 2012, and I'm working on a dual citizenship there right now.
What?
Yes.
My God, you're fascinating.
All I did so far was download the paperwork, but I don't really know what it's going to be like because of the pandemic. I imagine they're going to be looking for more people to get as citizens because, like, they'll need more people, I think, for their...
Because the population number has gone down?
Yeah,
Do you have family in Italy?
Yeah, I stayed with them when I was there, which was really cool because it was the first time I was meeting them, actually. But, yeah.
Can you tell our listeners how old you are?
I am 31.
Woo! She's over that 30-year hump. I love it.
Yeah, Jess and I graduated in 2011 from Ramapo.
Yeah.
So
I just you're always traveling, and so I was so fascinated when you had like a studio job like at the camera shop, and I was like, how is she gonna do this? Like this girl can't sit still. So I'm really happy that you started your own production company, and so now you've had more leeway. I mean, this year's weird, so it's not the best example of what it will be, but it's always nice to like be your own boss and make your own schedule. So
yeah, it's been like a weird blessing with COVID to sort of figure out how I want to spend time running a business, and and I've been getting more clients recently, and so yeah, it's been surprisingly well, I think. And I do like to be able to manage my own schedule.
I was just talking to my dad about this today. I have a friend who was unfortunately let go from her job, and she made the best of it. She's now designing and creating jewelry. She does pet portraits that she sends to people as a digital file. She's making ornaments right now. Like, she's just so crafty. Her name's Rachel. She's been on here for season 1. She's on Instagram as Arts and Feels. But it's funny because I was talking to my parents about it, and I was talking to them about it separately. And both of them were like, is she on the Facebook Marketplace? And I was like, oh, I don't think she is, but I'll let her know if that's how you want to buy it, because they're not on Instagram, but but yeah, I was saying to my dad, I was like, I just think a lot of people during this time realize that you just have to make the most of it, and we're really seeing how resilient and resourceful people are when worse comes to worse. I love it.
So cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the coolest things. I'm really, really glad for your friend, because my parents throughout the years have been laid off from jobs if they were downsizing or whatever. And I always try to encourage my mom. I'm like, this is an opportunity for you to like start your own sewing business, or 'cause she sews a lot, or, do this or that. I'm like, all the different things you guys could do. And at one point they did open up an Italian ice business, which was cool. And I just love stories like that where I'm like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, what is your dream? And how can you do that? Like, go pursue that, I get so excited when people talk about that. So that's really cool. I'm glad that your friend.
It can be tough. I mean, it's not everybody is in the situation where they can. But if you can, get through like the really low times, I'm 100% for just like pursuing your happiness. Like that's my word of 2020 has just been happy. That's like my mantra is like, I just want to be happy. And so like when COVID hit and I was at QVC and they were kind of like, well, the upstairs people are going to work from home and the downstairs people, meaning everybody on live studio, we're just going to keep going. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to play this game. And so once it came to like end of May, they were like, okay, like everybody who was home because they were afraid of the COVID, it's time to come back. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm done. Like, you don't pay me enough. And I think it's just really dirty of you to not settle for your live studio team. And I get it because like they had vendors that they had contracts with. But at the same time, it's always, there's like a flip of the coin, whereas I think some of their consumers and the viewers would have totally understand if they had halted for 2 weeks and then, because they record all of their video sales. And so anything that they still have in stock, they used to actually on their second channel, because QVC has like 3 live channels, and one of them was just from like 10 p.m. until 10 a.m. the next morning. They just played pre-recorded sales of items that they still had in stock. And so when COVID hit, I was like, just do that for as long as you can.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But so actually, Wesley, you know him. He's from Thinking Art Entertainment, and he messaged me. I have to follow up with him because he messaged me like probably 3 weeks ago at this point, and he's like, hey, so QVC is looking for a post-production editor, and I'm wondering like what your thoughts are as a company, because I was like, oh, well, like there's a lot of different departments and like each department has different management. I was like, as a company, I think they're fine. Like they always had town hall meetings. They tried to be very transparent, which is like another new word for me in 2020 is transparency.
Yeah,
so totally. I was like, that's great. Like they have as many meetings as they can and they record all of it because live team doesn't usually get to the meetings and whatever. So I was like, I don't know like what your schedule is going to be like since you're doing editing. Like it might not be the same as live studio team, but if you get an interview, ask them how they handled COVID specifically for the live studio team. And I'd really be curious what they say, because they did fine. I mean, they did everything they had to do. They were like, we're sanitizing, the cleaning crew is working really, really great during this time. But for me, it was just a matter of respect.
Yeah.
And I just felt, I was like, this is an upstairs, downstairs situation, because half of our team had just gotten a new manager early February. She was in the studio for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they said, okay, you're going to work from home. And it's like, we barely know her, and she's supposed to be leading our team, and now she's not in the studio while all of us are. So F us, right? Like, what are we worth? Anyway, long story short, it's a good company. I said to him, I saved a lot of money for my 401k in the short time that I was there. But I just think it's really it'll be interesting to see like how many people think about that question in the interview process going forward, and who is affected by that. But yeah, that's just me. And now I walk dogs, and I'm really, really happy with all my puppies because they're not people. So, yeah.
I know, I watch your Instagram stories. They're cute.
Dogs just love unconditionally, and I mean, who doesn't love that?
Yeah. I think it's-
So, enough about me. Okay, so now you're living in a new place. What made you decide to move out of your parents' house, especially during a pandemic, and how did you decide on where you're living now?
Um, it was just a good opportunity, you know. I had So in this house where I'm right now, and then across the hall, there were a guy and a girl dating each other. They got engaged, got their own house, so they moved out, which opened up this room, and of course the one across the hall. And then the two guys downstairs stayed. And I know everybody sort of through my friend Will because he's a graphic designer, and they're all graphic designer friends. Um, and they met at a conference actually, and they sort of bonded over just being from New Jersey. It's just very classic. Oh, where are you from? I'm from New Jersey. No way, I'm from New Jersey too. Where do you live? Oh, this county? Oh, this is so close. Um, so so it was very much like that, and they bonded and have been hanging out. And Will would host drink and draws, so we go to a bar and they'd give us exercises to do for drawing different things and kind of interacting with other people. Like you draw something and pass it to the next person and they add on to it type thing. Just fun events and everybody get a beer or something. So I kind of knew them through that. And then last year we also took a road trip to Cleveland, and Will had organized that as well. And we just did a bunch of like restaurant hopping out there and checking out the area and stuff. So that was really fun. And I got to know them a little bit more through that as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when I got, there was like some of my friends posted about the room being open on Instagram, just as a story. Hey, room's opened up. We're looking for someone. DM us if you're interested. I was like, all right, like I'll check it out. So, I decided to come here because I looked at a couple other places, but the price point was really good, especially for the size of the room and everything else that I'm getting. Like, it's a whole house that we're all splitting, and we have access to, there's a full basement downstairs with a washer and dryer. We've got a huge backyard. There's nice living room, there's a kitchen, and we've got our own bathroom upstairs up here too. So there's definitely a lot of space, and of course there's a dog that it comes with. But I also was interested in just sort of continuing to build that community. I already kind of know the people that I'm here with, and they keep everything really clean, and they're just really good people. And it's been fun getting to know them a little bit more. Usually on the weekends we'll try to do something together. We often play this one game called Wolves, which is like, there's an app that it comes with, and each person gets a card, and either you're a townsperson or you're a werewolf or you're some other kind of different fantastical being, like a seer or something like that, and you have to figure out who the wolves are and stuff. So that's been really fun.
Yeah.
And then I brought like a bocce ball set with me, and we just got a fire pit, and so we're hoping to just continue with the hangs. But that's been really cool. And like I said, we've occasionally sort of made dinner together or something, and so that's been fun. But that's kind of how I landed here.
Yeah, I guess my focus, I'm like most curious about like why even leave your parents' house? Like why choose to now I have to pay rent to live somewhere?
Oh,
I'm already paying rent at my parents' house.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been paying since I paid off my loan. We graduated 2011. I paid my loan for about 6 months until it was done. And then,
That's awesome.
yeah, I was really fortunate to have scholarships. So I really didn't owe a whole lot. And what I did owe, we had already saved up. It was just like 1 year of tuition, which was really nice. So I was very grateful for that. And the only reason I took out a loan was to build credit.
Yeah.
So as soon as my loan was done, if I continued to live at home, I needed to keep paying rent or start paying rent. So I've been paying rent since like, I guess 2012.
Okay.
So, because my loan, I think, ended December 2011. And then the next year, I started paying rent. But, it was much more like, this rent has been easy to manage so far, too. But I've effectively doubled my rent since I moved here, which is still pretty low though. So I'm very grateful for that. But I had the opportunity to move here and wanted to also because I thought I'd have a little bit more space from my family at home to just sort of concentrate on trying to run my own business and work on that. And, just get projects done and keep moving forward, because I'm a very it's still kind of been a struggle for me, but I'm a very I guess personable person. Like I like being around people. I want to hang with people. And so when there's just a lot of people around all the time, it's hard for me to get my work done. There was this one meme that I saw one time, and it was this guy working, and he had a sign on his back that was like, "I would love to talk to you, but please don't start a conversation with me because I literally have no self-control and won't be able to stop." That's
Yes.
I was like, I can relate so much, because yeah, if someone's like, "Hey, let's go for a hike," I'm like, I'm down, let's go.
Yeah.
But I have all this work to do, so like, hang on. So it's kind of just a very dividing thing for me, that I also just really enjoy. And like, I want to run my own business. I want to finish my projects, but I also really want to hang out with people. So in a way, it's, it's hard because there's more people here, but most of them are working from home too. So it's slightly different vibe. And I figured it'd be good to sort of be on the same like wavelength as other people in the house, where we're all kind of young and like either running a business or freelancing or working from home in some way, and sort of just like a collective like leaning on each other for that mindset, because living at home with your parents is much different, like they're not trying to run their own business. There's just family life happening all around you, which is much different.
And they're worried, and they want to share all of their opinions and concerns about how you should be living your life right now. And sometimes it doesn't help.
Yeah.
I love it. So do you think that that's worked? Do you think you have found more focus?
Well, it's been a little difficult just because I've still been settling in. Like I just bought a bed and a bed frame and had focused on that a lot because I got really into taking a huge dive into what it looks like to get an all-natural mattress. And I know so much more about certifications for all natural products now. And I'm just like, so that kind of consumed me a little bit.
That makes me really happy, though. I like that a lot.
A lot of research. I have a whole Excel spreadsheet that's color-coded right now.
So listeners, if you need a mattress, you can DM Jess Arena and get her Excel sheet. So since you've been there, you have roommates, but do you think you've interacted with your neighbors?
I mean, I feel like I've only been here for just 2 months now. And in that time, I haven't been here a whole lot. I've been back and forth from home. I was sleeping on an air mattress for 2 months here. So sometimes I'd just go home to like hang with my family, but also get a little bit of sleep on a real mattress in. And then, I've been going up to the Catskills a lot to go hiking before the weather really turns. So I don't necessarily feel like I've been here a whole lot. And when I am, I'm usually just working in my room, finishing edits, stuff like that, or hanging out with the people at the house. Like I said, we, have had game nights or made dinner with each other. So I haven't really interacted with people that are direct neighbors too much, other than, I walked inside one day and we said hi or something. But it's also just a very different vibe than what I'm used to. Like at my parents' house, we've got a nice big front lawn and there's a deck, and when it's warm I like to go outside and sit outside to do some work or something like that, and then we'll have neighbors up and down the street walking their dogs, and then we'll chat across the lawn. And we've before COVID we've had parties together or gone kayaking together with our neighbors, and so we're very interactive with our neighbors back home, but people are also just sort of like hanging out. Here's a little different. People are doing yard work and stuff, but like I'm not gonna hang out on this front lawn because it's like right on the road. I'd go into the backyard, but I've only really been in the backyard to do a workout or something like that, or maybe eat a sandwich, and then I come back inside and continue my work. So it's definitely been a little different with that interaction. I have the most interaction with my neighbors at home that we're more or less friends with now because we've lived there for a long time and have interacted for a long time. Some of the people that live here at this house have a little bit more interaction, I think, with some of the neighbors, like when they walk the dog Snowball. There's another dog down a few yards back, and they'll kind of chat sometimes, I think.
Dog people find other dog people.
It's definitely true. That dog is like kind of wild though. He's a beagle and he howls, like howls. But I mean, he's cute, I guess.
I just find this so fascinating. So, and maybe culture shock's not the right phrase, but do you think this is more of an adjustment than when you lived in Montana?
Yeah, it was way more of an adjustment. I
Whoa.
felt so much more comfortable in Montana.
Wow.
Yeah, like I could go outside and chop my own wood if I wanted to have a fire or something like that. Here has just been like, I've really been fighting it. It's been a really big struggle for me to come here. Much more of a city life. There's so much more going on, a lot more cars. And it just feels like this low-key stress all the time because of that, I think. Because you can't really escape it. Like if I was dealing with something at home, I just walk out the front door and go for a run or go for a hike or something like that because we live in the woods. And I definitely prefer that, I think, because here it's just been stressful. Like, oh my gosh, I tried going to the Garden State Plaza for like the first time.
Oh.
I'm used to the Rockaway Mall, which is like one rectangle and a big circle around it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like,
Garden State's weird.
oh my gosh, I was like lost and I was trying to use like my GPS and I couldn't get any service, and then I had to go find one of those mall like, directories.
Charging. Oh,
But
yeah.
I couldn't, they're like at the opposite ends of the mall. So I'm like, I don't know where I am right now. I finally figured it out just because I walked in circles for so long. I'm like, okay, I kind of understand this mall, but it was like stores and then stores in the middle and stores around that and then another middle with stores and then stores on the outside. And I was like, I don't understand. So that was really stressful for me.
I think you are one of my culture shocks. Like, New Jersey is such a big place. And it's interesting how, like, if you just move a few miles in one direction, it is different. Like, meeting you at Ramapo, there was so many people from different walks of life. Because when I finished high school, I went to community college. And so, yeah, there was still people coming from different towns. But meeting you at Ramapo, I was just like, oh, right, there's people, like, New Jersey is not all the same. And then, like, going to your house for the first time, I was like, where am I? Like, why are there so many trees here? And you have told me in the past, you're like, I don't like the city. I'm not a city person. And I just find that so fascinating because, like, you're so into filmmaking. And I'm like, if you would just come into Philly, you could do filmmaking 24/7. But I get it, girl. Like, there's just people are drawn to and feel comfortable in different settings.
Yeah. Like they tried to sort of sell me on the idea when I was moving here. Because at first I was like, I don't know. And they tried to sell me on the idea that, oh, everything is so close and really convenient. We're right next to Highway 84 and 46. And I was like, that's the opposite of selling for me. It's like, I'd prefer the inconvenience so that I have a 20-minute drive to the mall instead of like a 10-minute drive to the mall, because if that means I get to just drive on one road straight through trees for a while without all these like lights and turns and cars and stop signs, I would much prefer that. So they were really sweet in talking about how convenient it was and all this stuff. And I was like, honestly, I don't care. Like, not a selling point for me personally. I totally get it for other people, but like, I don't mind driving to the city for work, but I just would prefer not to actually live there.
Yeah.
I remember one time I visited you for like an overnight and we went to a friend's house for a game night, and then when we were driving back it was already dark out and you were just like a master on those roads, whereas I was like, oh my god, where is this road curving to? Because there's so many curves and I'm like, there's no barriers. I'm like, ah! So you are adjusted to your setting at your like in your parents' area.
Yeah, it's been interesting here just because like I look out the window at night and it doesn't get dark. And I'm like, what?
Because of the lights?
Yeah, there's so many lights on all the time here. And I just don't, I'm like, I can't see any stars.
So wild.
Yeah, so that's been a little difficult, but.
How do you feel on a larger scale of like the community where you grew up and like where you are now? Do you think you interact with community?
I've definitely interacted with community at my parents' house. Last year, so my parents live in a lake community, and in the time I spent with them, I don't remember our roads ever being paved. So, and they've always complained about it, and our roads are really terrible, and the town will come through and just do patchwork stuff, which is never great. So I decided last September to go to a town hall meeting and be like, hey, I want our roads paved. And we had a new mayor who was just introduced, I think, last year, which I hadn't known at the time. And so I showed up and they were like, well, the last mayor kind of left a mess and we're working on new plans to repave a bunch of stuff and we're trying to figure that out. And I'm like, okay, well, is Cozy Lake on there? And they were like, no, it's not. And I was like, why not? Our roads have not been paved in like 30 years. Like, you need to put that on there. And the president was like, do you want that officially on the record? And I was like, yes, that's why I'm here. Please put that on the record to get our roads paved. And so, I had planned to keep going back there with documents and things outlining the actual last physical paving of the road, not just patchwork. And before I even got to do the research, apparently they decided to talk with, I think it's like New Jersey Natural Gas. And so now since the beginning of quarantine, basically, they had New Jersey Natural Gas come in and start tearing up some of the roads to put in gas lines everywhere. Because then they also talked with that company in an agreement to, once they're done putting gas lines in, they're going to repave everything.
Oh.
So I was like, oh.
How long is that going to take?
I think it's supposed to be complete in 2022. But for now until 2021, they're going to be doing the gas lines. And then 2021 to 2022, they'll repave everything. And I was like, well, that's really cool. I feel like I kind of did something, but I wasn't expecting all the gas lines to be put in. That's not really why I went there. That kind of took a different turn than I expected because we don't really want natural gas. And now people are also talking about putting us on city water. And I'm like, no, well water is better in my opinion. And so that's like a whole debate now too. That's not officially being done. That was just by our community members sort of talking about it. So we do live in a lake community. We've got a Facebook for it. We've got a board for it. And I've thought several times about being on the board for it. I haven't done anything like that yet, but I did go to that town hall meeting and it seems to have made a difference, which is cool. And I don't know. I feel like I wrote other stuff down. Wait, so... Oh, wow. We're all the way down here. So, yeah. So, I definitely interact with community back home. Also, my dad is in community band because he's a drummer. And so we'll go to concerts. And this year they did just a really small Memorial Day concert sort of thing and a really small 4th of July Day concert, and I filmed both of those. So just kind of, and my dad actually helped to sort of get those going because nobody was doing anything and nobody wanted to because of the pandemic. So we kind of took that upon ourselves, which was fun to do. And then I edited it and we released it on, YouTube or whatever. It was cute. We also like going to this thing called Jefferson Day in the summers. Obviously we didn't have it this year, and it might actually be just fireworks from now on too, but there were always vendors and we always loved going to that, or the high school musicals and things. And also this year in front of the town hall where we had done those concerts, they also had a Black Lives Matter teach-in, so my family and I all went to that this year, and I also went to a couple of protests in the surrounding areas in a few other towns as well. And I serve at my church, and I've been serving at my church since 2014. I make a lot of films for them, and I work on the creative team and just also get to help with other various artistic projects that we have going on for the congregation. It's not always a film, but I usually lead the the video team for that. So back in the summer, actually, we had a really cool opportunity. Someone let us use a baseball stadium up in Sussex County, and we got to host it. We only did it the one time, but it was just an outdoor service, and so I filmed the whole thing with I directed it, and I had a team filming it for me, which was really cool, because usually when I make projects for Emergence, it's just me filming. So it was really great to lead other people in that and really see them be excited about that and do a great job on it, and that was really fun. So
I love it. It's really important, like, to point out just like what your town offers, because some places, like, their town isn't as active, and so it's nice that you have that to like bring the community together. I love that you went to a town hall. I hope you stay on top of that.
yeah, I mean, they seem to just be working on it, so I was like, all right, cool. Like, the one time that I went to talk about getting our roads paved, it seems to have done something. I don't know, or caught someone's attention.
I mean, I think a lot about local politics is that people don't realize how powerful their voice is, because like anybody on a council, they're public servants. They're meant to serve the public, but they need to know what the public wants in order to do their job efficiently. So, people have a reason to complain sometimes, but it's better if you just like voice your opinion directly to the council and all of your local leaders. Let them know what you want, and you'd be surprised what'll get done.
Yeah, it was a really cool feeling to sort of go. And then someone also had asked me to do an interview too about how bad the roads were, and I shared that because I also like the roads with the way they were also sort of cost me a lot. When I was working on another project, I was filming a documentary about a school bus converted into a tiny home, and we were supposed to go out west. And right before we were leaving, about 2 weeks before, I went for a run because I really enjoy running, and the roads weren't really as nice as they should have been, and I was sprinting and rolled my ankle and like propelled forward and just tore up everything, and my ankle swelled so bad. And they told me I hadn't broken it or torn anything, but probably would have been better if I did. It was very, very bruised and purple, and just pretty gross. So that took a really long time to heal, and I ended up not being able to complete the film because of that. So
Yeah, that's a huge deal. Well, staying on filmmaking, I told you couldn't come on this podcast until you finished a certain project that you said like was on the not necessarily on the back burner. It's just that you have a lot of burners. Do you want to talk about that project?
Yeah, sure. So it relates to what I was talking about earlier with being blessed enough to go to the teach-in in my town, as well as some of the other protests that were happening earlier this year. Just a very poignant time in history for us. And so basically, I started this film over the summer, and I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it at first. It started because I originally had a black square posted for Blackout Tuesday. If anybody knows about that, it was a very big movement happening on Instagram at the time. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding it. I was debating if I should post a black square at all. I talked to some friends about it, and they sort of convinced me that it would be a good idea. And then after I posted it, I immediately felt like I still wasn't sure. And there's, like I said, just so much controversy surrounding it. And after I posted it, I wasn't sure if it was being helpful or harmful, even with the supplementary resources that I posted alongside it. So I posted the black square, but it had a swipe that you could go to other resources. That could still be passed up as just being a black square if nobody really pays attention to the idea that you can swipe. And so rather than be questionable, I archived it pretty immediately and began to make the film instead that I was talking about, hoping to help instead of being a part of divisiveness. And so in the film, I wanted to basically provide a platform for modern day demonstrators that I had been viewing at these different protests, and just sort of allow them a space to be heard in beyond the protest that they had helped lead or speak at. And so some of them are minors, so there's a couple blurred out faces in an effort to hopefully protect identities. And the film itself is just supposed to show the ongoing struggle of our society with racism and how that sort of parallels to the civil rights movement. And it was also just personally helpful for me in making it as I was just sort of processing a lot of it, and it exemplifies much of what I've been learning in this season too. So, you know.
I love it. This has been a really bittersweet year for a lot of reasons. And I think more people than ever kind of like taking the time and confronting the way that they view things and like how they feel when they're presented with something like racism, and then like, why do you feel that way? I'm like really proud of everybody who's just taken the time and found the resources to educate themselves. And I'm hoping that like there really is a big change coming. But, you know, it's always nice to see on a local level changes. And so I hope that people will be more active this year. I know, like, in 2016 when Trump became president, I was like, I'm going to know stuff now. And then I didn't. And I like to say part of it was because, like, I had a full-time job. And I know that time is a really big part of being educated and informed. And then you need even more time sometimes just to be involved, which I think are two different things, to be informed and to be involved. But yeah, I know I've already started seeing on the socials people saying like, you know, now is the time to stay active and to stay informed and to stay passionate, because during a presidential election year, a lot of people will, you know, talk the talk, and then after the results, they don't walk the walk. And so we have to just hold each other accountable.
Yeah, absolutely. The political sphere has been very weighty, I guess. And I don't know. I don't know if you want to like talk politics, because I know that you've talked a lot of politics.
I love talking politics.
2020 Jess loves talking politics. If you want to, I'm down for it. I mean, I'm curious, like, what your thoughts are. Do you consider yourself informed?
Probably not as well as I could be. And I think some of that, like you were saying, does come down to time. I mean, and I think that's on both sides of the spectrum, you know. I think it's very important to be informed. I have a book that I plan on reading. I did a book swap with people with, and also supporting Black-owned businesses, like bookstores. So I gave someone The New Jim Crow, and I got Why I'm Not Talking to My White Friends About Racism Anymore. So I'm excited to read that one. Yeah, not as well as informed as I could be, but I'm finding ways that I can be. And oh my gosh, I had a thought, but it's left my brain.
No! Come back, thought. Come back.
Well, so, I mean, yeah, that was another reason I think I wanted to make this video, just to showcase one of the many very important things that we were voting for in this particular season. And I hate that people feel like they need to choose between the lesser of two evils. And I would rather people be more informed on a level that is outside of things that they've heard on Facebook or what their friends are doing, or even just looking at the only two parties, you know. I believe that there are other options, and I hate that we're sort of pigeonholed into one or the other, because I don't think that's ever how it was supposed to be. And I feel like that's very divisive. Whereas if you had at least a third party in there, then you could allow room for intellectual discussion rather than people arguing. So...
Yeah, in Pennsylvania, we had Joe Jorgensen on our ballot running for president, and there was thousands of people that voted for her. So it's not that nobody was, which is
Yeah.
nice. But then you always kind of question, well, do you actually know who this candidate is? Or were you just deciding, I don't like Trump or Biden, so I'm going to vote third party? Like, if
Yeah.
that's the reason, no, just
Yeah.
don't vote. Just don't vote for that particular line.
I spent
a lot of time. I spent a lot of time trying to research who I wanted to vote for and understanding more about them. And I did vote Libertarian. I still don't fully agree with Joe on certain things. But I also didn't feel comfortable like voting for Biden because I didn't like Trump. Or because he's
Right.
because he's like a lesser version of Bernie Sanders or something.
For
like,
sure. Yeah. And I've said before, I as long as you have the right reasons for voting Libertarian or Green Party or whatever, there's so many different parties, like depending on what state you're in, because people are like, well, I want it to be this particular rule, where I'm like, all right, we already have these 4 parties, like just figure it out. But I think it's really important that if like that's really what you believe in, then we need to see those results on the ballot. Like we need to see like, okay, there were people that did vote for this party. And so if we assume that they voted it because they really believe in that, then we need to acknowledge that, and we need to start asking people, what is it that you believe about their platform and how can we still integrate that? Because just because she didn't get the presidency, I mean, I still want to follow her and the whole party and see what happens. Like that's what I want to especially do for season 3 of this podcast, is follow up with who's on the ballot and see what happens next.
like, where are they now?
Yeah, because people don't, I mean, if you're going to run for president, you're not just going to like go
Just
away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
Well, I didn't get it. Bye.
So maybe you should be my Joe Jorgensen correspondent for season 3.
I can try.
I think it would be really nice, because I think it's a really good point of that, we should know everybody who's on the ballot and why they're on the ballot. I didn't talk about presidency in season 1 because I knew how many sources were out there, and I just didn't feel like there was enough for the local news.
Okay.
But I would love to explore third party more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely. I like having another option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Great things are happening. I mean, people are reaching across the aisle every day.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for people to acknowledge that and like see who those people are that are not just saying, well, I'm this party, so I'm only going to lean towards these values. Like at the end of the day, you're representing the people. Like you're not representing your party. So I hope people keep that in mind. And just like as an everyday, that just should be like an everyday mantra of like, you're not just living for yourself. You're living for everybody. Like the way you live your life affects everybody around you.
Absolutely. I mean, as a Christian, we're called to be in relationship with other people and to understand how important that is and how our actions and words influence or affect other people in some way. And you want to care about those people as much as you, probably, if not more, than you care about yourself. Like we're called to love people the way that Christ loved the church, and that's self-sacrifice. So if you're just constantly like living for yourself, then I mean, it's not really going to be great. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be a little lonely.
Yeah.
Because I probably wouldn't want to hang out with someone who just lives for themselves.
Right.
Right.
I hear you. Well, I think this has been really fun. I think we've talked about a lot of resources that people can check out, and I'll try to get a lot of links in the episode description. Jess, do you want to tell the listeners where they can find you?
Sure. My personal Instagram handle is @ninjarena with an underscore at the end. And then I have a business one too that I started back in March, haven't been keeping up with it. That's just at JA Cinema, which is my website, jacinema.com. And that also has YouTube videos, which I think is just if you type my regular email address on YouTube, because I haven't really segued that together, I think. I don't know. I'm on YouTube too, but you can find those through links on my website.
Sweet, and I'll get them in the episode description. Well, this has been your friend Jess and your new friend Jess.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you around the neighborhood. We're waving. They can't hear you wave, Jess.
Oh, sorry.
We're on video. Bye.